So I'm Sarah Wike and I am the SENDIASS manager for Barnsley Local Authority. I'm very proud to be part of my local authority and my local area. So Alistair, I'll go to you next.
Yep, I'm Alistair Hines. I'm an assistant service manager in the SEN service for Hampshire County Council.
Oh, welcome. That's really good. And Julie?
I'm Julie and I'm the SENDIASS manager in Camden.
Right, and so I've got Laura from Preston.
Hi, yeah, I'm Laura. I'm the SENDIASS manager in Lancashire, and unfortunately, I need to go at 1 o'clock. But
all right,
so I might catch up with you outside.
Anytime, Laura. anytime. Helen.
Hi, yeah, my name is Helen Elgar. I'm an SEN inclusion advisor for Kent.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, brilliant. And Samantha?
Hi, I'm also a SEN inclusion advisor for Kent, different parts of Kent.
All right, you two work together.
Possibly. We do, yeah.
And then I've got Jane with a very exciting looking background there.
Hi everyone, yeah, Jane Dudley. I'm a SEND commissioning officer for Shropshire, recently joined the authority and will be involved in the SEND IASS recommissioning. So that's why I'm interested in this workshop.
Brilliant. It's interesting because in the last group people who were kind of looking at the commissioner of SENDIASS, I don't know what that means for us, Macy Ray. Do we need to be worried? What's going to happen to us? Anyway, so welcome to my presentation. I'll just give you a little bit of background on me, and I'm going to whip through my slides because I want to get to the end and not waste anybody's time. When you've got to nip out, Laura, that's absolutely fine. We'll just wave by and go. Once I put my screen, share my screen, I probably can't see you anyway, but thank you for picking this workshop. So I'm the SENDIASS manager in Barnsley, and honestly, I've been here a long time. I just think they can't get rid of me anymore. I genuinely think it's become like that. I started off as parent partnership coordinator, and I kind of brought my culture and ethos of parent partnership as I transitioned us into SENDIASS. It was different in SENDIASS. And I don't know if you agree, Julie, that the old code of practice, when we talked about parent partnership service, that language was embedded throughout that document. And while it's a given that parents are partners, that language is not as embedded. And sometimes I think that we're having to almost advocate for even that role sometimes. That's just kind of my, if you like, view of the fundamental differences between the past and the present. Don't mean I'm right. You can challenge me on that. And so we had our local area SEND inspection, and in 2021, and SENDIASS, we did really well. Our executive director was really happy with us because we did well, and we had a little chat, and she said I was the jewel in her crown. So obviously my head went like that, and then I felt I was so important I could run the council. Clearly couldn't. I was just really happy that I could run SENDIASS. But I was asked then, we had, it's no secret that parenting voice in our authority is a challenge. That's no secret. And I was asked if I would be seconded to go and work with a group of parents who were trying to create that through the Parent Carer Forum model in our area. So okay, I weren't sure if I wanted to do that, but kind of when you're being asked by the top, you feel it's a feather in your cap, and you want to help your local authority. Went across and did that. I went across and did that having been a commander of my SENDIASS ship and thinking I were brilliant. Ofsted said I were, so no reason to doubt that. To being immersed in a parenting world where I thought I was going to be commander of their ship as well. However, they stuck me in a canoe and said, you've got an oar and you want a rose. So it was a very different experience. But what I gained from that was that I spent 10 months immersed in the parenting world. They taught me how to swear. I've learnt words. I've even learnt what words meant that I didn't know before. So they taught me how to swear. They taught me I weren't that important just because I had a badge. And they taught me that they understood what it was like to give their voice and be part of influence more than I did at that point. So I went into that experience knowing that I wasn't the most important person and I had much to learn. And I actually felt anxious and out of my depth, to be fair. And I don't think that's a bad feeling to have, because that's what our families face often on a daily basis. So it was a good experience. And so I'll put my slides up, but I'm trying not to get locked into them and then not be able to see you. So I'll talk as much as I can and just share what I think might be more interesting to you. You'll get to see them anyway. So I don't know how many of you feel like I often feel, but I was thinking about Mr. Ben, you know, the character of many years ago. And so, you know, I get ready, go to work, get into my little workshop. This is my calendar for today. And then you find that you've got to evolve into something else. So, you know, I had a visit, one of my parents had the worst news ever, and my visit had to take place, oh, thank you, my visit had to take place in a hospice that morning. And she'd had the worst news. And I went along to do my little bit of SENDIASS stuff. And I ended up holding her hands because she was too scared to go to sleep because she didn't know if she was going to wake up. So I was hand-holding that day. I then went from there, had a finance meeting. So I had to be an accountant. I went from there that week. I went into a school and I'd got a grumpy parent and a grumpy head teacher. And so I was a mediator. Occasionally I needed to be a referee, you know, so I'd already gone into my workshop and come out with various outfits. And I am sure that is exactly the same experience that you all have, whatever role you've got on a day-to-day basis. So when I think about today's workplace and think about my role, I think about Mr. Ben, because like I say, I get up and put my outfit on and I might have to put a different one on. And SENDIASS are good at adapting like that, but I think people are good at adapting like that. And then in November 2022, I came back into SENDIASS after missing a comment and thought, what am I doing? What am I doing back here? Can I do this? And in March 2023, this year, our local authority announced that it was a safety valve area. I thought, okay, here we go again. It's not going to get easier. You know, so what can we do? And at the same time, our local authority is saying, we want you to be a strategic partner, Sarah. It's important to us you're a strategic partner. We want your role to adapt. We want less casework and more strategy. And we want to know how you can help us do that. And so we moved on to kind of the shop window and what that shop window could look like now as we become more strategic partners. And so I feel that SENDIASSs are the shop window of the local area SEND systems. We can be like the three wise monkeys. We can hear all, we can see all, we can say nothing sometimes. But we are that shop window to what is happening in our local areas, in our local communities. And we are that shop window because our families put us in that position where they share what their lived experience is. But at the same time, we see what our local authority is trying to deliver and drive. And we are part of both. And it's a privileged position. It can also be a difficult position. You know, and I think in another slide, I call it, it can be a curse because we can see both sides. And sometimes treading that impartial line, you wobble and you fall off, dependent on what you're faced with, whether it be you fall off because you're kind of agreeing with your local authority, or you fall off because you're really feeling it for that parent and you can feel a little bit incensed, and we're not supposed to feel any. We're supposed to be impartial, but we're human beings as well. We're an in-house service. I'm proud of that. I'm proud to be part of my local authority. Whereas we get part of all our legal training, we also get access to some phenomenal in-house training that I don't think you could get anywhere else. We're on top with our safeguard training. We're on top with our GDPR. I've done the level 7. I've done 2 masters in leadership with our local authority, and part of the last leadership was leaders at every level, where they said where they were encouraging you to to be creative and flexible, and basically do more with less, which is do more work with less resources, but be as creative as you want. And so if you know anything about our SENDIASS service, look on our Facebook page, because we tend to, we'll have a go at alt, in all honesty. We have got a really good engagement through our families, through our Facebook page. To be fair, that grew through COVID. And then because what we did through COVID in terms of co-producing with our families, I had a strategic management group of parents and colleagues, but the parents we broke off into a subgroup and I said to them, right, how are we going to look after our families during COVID? And they were like, develop your social media stuff. Go on and tell some stories to kids. I'm like, what? Video yourself doing this. And then one parent said, bake a cake and put a moustache on your face. I'm like, what? How can I do all of this? But we created that culture of engagement during that particular time. And I could only do that because whilst the parents were saying do this, our local authority was saying respond to need. Do what you need to do, provide that welfare wraparound where you can, be creative, be imaginative, be innovative. So I feel that for us as a service, we are in the right place at the right time for our families. And I think that's important. But most of all, I think we test the temperature. We can test the temperature. We know what the temperature is. We know where the hot spots are. We also know what's challenging for our colleagues as well. And so I think that puts us in a really good position to share what we've got. So just for you commissioners out there, you need us. Okay, just a little plug there. We do test the temperature. We do know what's happening. A good SENDIASS has got its finger on the pulse, and it is a resource. We can triage what's coming. We can tell you what the problems of tomorrow might be. What I want to do as we move forward into this new era of development, from what we've heard this morning, is I kind of want to create safety valves within our safety valve era, because I think that could be important to our families. We can't fix the system. We're not here to fix the system, but we can try to create some safety nets whilst that system has to do what it has to do. I want to go mining for some rich data. We already get data from families, but you know, we are an ex-coal mining industry, so we're good at that. And I want to go mining. I want to find where the seams are, and we can do that with our families, so that the local authority could then look into where the thematic drives need to be, and that will help them in preparation for Ofsted. And that's why I say again, I think that we're a resource. And I think that's all part of our partnership working, our partnership responsibilities. And so those are the things I'd like to, as part of, as we all move forward into this new era, that's the type of things that I'd like to do. And what I've done is I've experimented with that to see whether we do collect data. We collect data about what we're doing, and we collect data about our service. But can we do a bit more? Can we dig a bit deeper? And so I have done that as an experiment. I created a survey, and I kind of learnt from being immersed in the parenting world that the best way to engage and connect is to give out some free stuff. You know, let's get some vouchers going. They called it free stuff, free something else. I've changed the words to stuff because I don't want to swear at you, but you know, give them some free stuff. And so we looked at, right, let's have a look. Cost of living crisis, people are struggling, supermarket bills have gone up. Let's get some vouchers that could ease some of the pressure on that as a way to get people to engage. Get a good snapshot in time, so you need your numbers. We had a model where we were looking at 100 parents that could answer a really good question and give us some information. I've just tried that model again. I put a survey out. I didn't look for 100 parents, I just put a survey out, and within 4 weeks I got 72 responses, which I thought was pretty good. And also I checked that they were all service users. So the one thing I made them do was tell us who they were at the beginning of the survey. Every single one did. That's only for my purpose, but so I could cross-reference it to our database to make sure that we didn't just have random people filling our survey in. So what we were collecting was from people who are experiencing the system. So we're able to check that. And also what I learned from being immersed in the parenting world is that the parents are experts. They are SEND experts. We might consider ourselves SEND experts, but our parents really are SEND experts because they experience it and they navigate through it. So more often with our support, they navigate through it, they consume it, they eat it up, and they move on. And so when I'm doing my survey with parents, what I learned from being immersed in the parenting world is I'm not doing a survey with parents. I'm doing a survey with consultants. They've got a right to that status. They've got an absolute right to that status, and we don't have a right to treat them as any lesser than that. That's just my belief. So I created a survey. I've got a strategic management group, as SENDIASS do have. Absolutely pivotal role for us. Our strategic management group is where I will collect some quarterly data and go along and say, look at what this is telling us. And my strategic management group, which is 50% of our SEND colleagues from across different services and 50% of our parents. And then we have some young people on there. They will critique that, they will analyse that, and they will check and challenge how valid that is. So we've got a really good system going there. And then from my strategic management group, my data trawl, I then feed that into our SEND oversight board, which is where as strategic partners we also feed into. And that's where it then gets checked and challenged there. So what I want to do is I want to start feeding in more rich qualitative data about the temperature. What is the temperature in our local area for our families? Is there any way that we can identify that temperature, where that temperature is, and is there any way that the local authority will have the opportunity to reduce that temperature if it's around, if it's hitting out through the safety valve stuff? Can we reduce it to stop it blowing? I don't know if we can. That's where we want to get to. And so I did the survey. I chose to do that at the end of July when the kids are broken up from schools, because I don't know about my other SENDIASS colleagues on here, but June and middle of June to the end of July, parents are fatigued. Staff are fatigued, but parents are fatigued. I ain't going to ask anything of my parents in that window of time. But get them to the other side, get them to the school holidays. It's not always a bed of roses at school holidays for families, I know that. But for many of our families, they get to do that. So that's when I decided I need to swoop in and do a bit of mining. And we got a good response to that. So that paid off, thinking about it like that, that really paid off. And also I asked questions where they could participate in the survey for a few minutes, or they could spend as much time as they wanted on it. So I'll just show you the question. I'm going to now show you some of the questions we asked and show you some of the data. It made me think about the Roy Walker and the say what you see. Can you remember the catchphrase? Say what you see. Because what I want to do is I want to start collecting my qualitative data from going mining, and I want to take that to my strategic management group and say, what do you see? Because I can look at it with my eyes, but actually different eyes on it will see it in different ways. And so we might look at it different. So if we just look at the first question, and it'll be interesting to know if anyone got any comments to this. But what I did was, rather than just ask a question, I also wanted to connect emotionally. So I wanted to kind of people to feel that I was giving something before asking something. So each one of my questions, and I only asked a few questions, I start with a sentence like, it's not easy being a SEND parent. It's fact and it's truth. It's not. So I'm already saying it's not easy being you. So what are the things that you might need our service for? So that's the only question, and they can answer as many as they want. So if you look, we had 72 people that responded to this survey. But because they could answer more than one, we got 398 responses. So you can argue the validity of all data, I understand that. But what this is an experiment to see whether a snapshot of data in time can tell us enough so that we can triage the potential problems of tomorrow. And I don't know if anyone's looking at this and thinking, well, I see this, I see that. You could say, well, it's obvious, you know, number 3, you know, 63 people, 87.5% want help with EHCP processes. You could say that seems high. I'm not really interested so much in that because that's our bread and butter. So what I'm interested in is that actually 29.2% are asking for some support with short breaks. So, okay, can I reduce the pressure in my service and put that somewhere else? Is that family information services? Why do people need to come to us to ask about short breaks? So where are we not quite specific in what we're doing? So that's the kind of stuff I'm interested in there. The complaints are not around us. The 40.3% are not around us. They're around complaints in general. So, okay, I'm interested in that. What are people wanting to come to us and have advice about complaints for? What is it that people are not happy about? And where can I report that rising temperature to see whether elsewhere, wherever that is, that can be reduced at my next quarterly data? So that's just looking at that is kind of what I see in some of that. Has anybody got any thoughts on that? It don't matter if you haven't not, we can move on to the next question. Let's move on to the next one. Right. This one was interesting. It says you have very busy lives and we know you need to get IASS when it suits you. Now, I'm not particularly talking about SENDIASS there because information, advice and support can come from various quarters. So what I'm asking is, what we want to know in what way you use our service. What are you using our service, in what way? Now, what's interesting is that we've got that high number of individual face-to-face, and we're seeing that. We're seeing more and more people are wanting that face-to-face. But what we're seeing is that more and more services are kind of still wanting to do that virtual connectivity because you can do more work. In the reality of it, you can do more work. But what we're starting to see is families are wanting more face-to-face contact again. So we know that there's some information we can share there. We also know that for us as a service, Facebook is a huge source of where they want information from. And we know 61.1% want Facebook messaging. So we're already on with that. We offer 1 session a week, sometimes 2 or 3 if we put some on during the day, but we offer 1 evening a week. And that means 1 member of staff is working 1 evening over 4 weeks because there's 4 of us. And we go online between 6:30 and 8:30 at night. And we offer private messaging, information, advice only. We're not ringing anybody. We're not having a verbal conversation, but we're messaging. And I can tell you that in that 2-hour window, we are actually sometimes having 20 conversations. Now, I cannot have 20 conversations in 2 hours in any other way. So that's a quick way of working and providing information and advice. So what I know from this data is that actually social media is an important communication tool to our families. And if we can manage that, maybe some others can manage that. That's up to them to decide. But that's not saying, oh, SENDIASS is great. That's saying Facebook messaging works for families. But if we go to the slide, if we go to the slide on the times, is it the next one? So this one. Now this one's important because I say, I know as a SEND parent, it's 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. I know that, you know, that's what our families, as a carer, that's what it's like. When's the best time for you to get your information and advice? Now, this is interesting because if we look at this, what 72 people told us, and again, it's just a snapshot in time, is that really from about midday up to picking the kids up is a good time for them to have conversations. But also there's a high number wanting conversations at between 6:30 and 9:30. So we've already thought, right, that's a good time. We can reduce some of the pressure in a family's life by doing our Facebook messaging service within that time frame. So we've already picked that up. That's something we can do. So we know that parents can be highly stressed, highly anxious at that time. So they've got that point of contact once a week if they need it. And it's surprising what comes through. Sometimes they'll just come for a chat. So if we go to the next one. This was kind of a more emotional one, and asking them, I wanted to test, do they understand what SENDIASS is? Because again, we get many referrals and many requests, and that's not really who we are. And we don't want people to just be sent away. But if I've got parents coming to us, and that's what our triage was telling us, our triage data was saying, parents are coming to us, it's not really us. So what is going off out there that they think it's us? So let me test that. Let me test whether parents know who we are and what we do, or do we need to do a bit of work on that? And so, so what this one told me was really interesting is that they actually, the majority do know what we do, because they're saying that I want 76%, I want somebody to tell me my options. That's good. That means 2/3 do know that's what we're here to do. I'm sorry about the words that are cut off. It's just how the survey printed it off. 77% said someone will guide me when I'm unsure. Bye, Samantha's got to go. Someone will guide me when I'm unsure. So that's again what we do. So again, people do know that's what we will do. And so, so that interests, that kind of interests me. And then, but what really interested me in this is points 2 to 5. When parents are saying, I'm tired, I'm worried, I get upset. Nearly 50% of our parents, what this says to me is, are in an anxious state. And if nearly 50% of our parents are in an anxious state, their children are feeling that. Okay, we can't fix the problem, but that's what that tells me. So what can I do with that? Do I dig deeper? What can I do with that? But that tells me that a high number of our parents at this snapshot in time are in that anxious state. What was the next one? Let's have a look what the next one is. There's one more. Oh, I think that's it. So so the highlights from that, we also asked the question, what could we do as a service? The SENDIASS service is nothing without you, and it's not. That's, we firmly believe that. And do you have any comments to help us? Now, we've always kind of asked that data in previous times, and we'll always get comments like, oh, Sarah, she's brilliant, she sorted out really hard, and if it hadn't been for Sarah, I don't know where I'd have been. We get those comments, okay? We get those emotional, I love you comments. What I noticed in this data was that the comments were more about the service, and that's a shift. So that's interesting to me, because I'm thinking, right, okay, they've actually responded about the service. They've thought about other parents to me, because they're not thinking, I want this, I want this. The responses are not saying that. The responses are saying, well, this is good, or more of this, please. You know, so they're thinking wider. So I thought, oh, maybe parents have come on a journey here. So I'll watch that. I'll look at that into some more. I also noticed, and again thinking back to this morning where they talked about how, you know, that, you know, these are not good times for families. Those responses to all those questions, what they told me at this snapshot in time is that parents are emotional, but they're not defeated. They're not down yet. Okay, and I believe that parents will always find that inner lion or inner lioness when they need to. But my data, the wording, the language in my data from the feedback I've got says that we're emotional, we're not defeated, and we're not defeatist. And so any changes, any quick changes, they're not going to roll over. They're not going to roll over. And also what I noticed is that, as I've said, the language was more partnership based. It was more about thinking wider, thinking about others, thinking about the service, rather than that inner me, and what I want out of your service. So it was lovely. It was a really good piece of work to give us that snapshot in time. So what have we done? We've already increased the social media sessions. We've also put a post up. We put a post up each Monday to tell them what our response times are for that week. Because sometimes our response time to inquiries can be 2 days, 3 days. Sometimes it can be much longer. So we go on, what realistically, what are we delivering this week? And so we've started to put that up, and what we found is that if our response time is going to be a bit longer, that actually, but when we are getting to those people, the temperature in them is they're not cross with us because they've had to wait 5 days instead of 3 days. We're already reducing the temperature in that fact that they might have had to wait a little bit longer. So that's helping reducing, putting that expectation there and reducing that. And also, the really exciting thing is that our strategic management group is going back through its terms of reference. It's time to recruit our parent carers to join us and refresh our SMG. So we put out a post and we contacted our parents and carers on various platforms and said, do you want to volunteer to be on our SMG? We had within, we put that out on Friday. We contacted parents on Friday that are not on social media. And by Tuesday lunchtime, we got 15 parents saying, me, I want to be on your SMG. So that's massive. I'm really pleased about that. And there's been some more since then. So we've got buy-in to our service right now as part of our SMG. And our SMG, I think the last slide, our SMG is our link to our strategic work. So our Send Families begin our strategic understanding. The team develops its strategic understanding and we feed that up through our strategic management group and then into Send Oversight Board. And so it all interrelates, and fingers crossed, if we can kind of continue to create data like this, we can be really good partners in our local authority, to our families and to our local authority. Have I done that in time, Macy?
Yes, you have. Yeah, you've got 5 minutes left if anybody wants to ask any questions. And if it's okay, just while people are asking any questions, I'm going to really quickly show the evaluation link and just ask people to complete that before they leave if possible. But thank you, Sarah. That was really interesting.
Do you know what? I smartened up for my second one, didn't I?
Yeah, you did well. First one is always a bit tricky, but yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Oh,
Sarah,
anyway,
are you able to share your survey?
I can share the survey, yes, I can. I just have to edit it because the front one has got all the names and addresses on, but I can absolutely